Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's great to see a couple of little comments in the window there. So how are you doing, Nicholas and Shivendra and Alejandro? So that's quite cool. Alejandro's in Colombia. I didn't realize we actually had anyone from Colombia who joined us. So welcome. Great to see you back. Guess if anybody wants to pop a little message in just to let us know where you are, that'd be quite cool actually. We'll see whereabouts people are joining from. But welcome to Integration Monday, and this week we're joined again by Sandro. Sandro's over in Portugal in Porto, and Sandro's been enjoying barbecue today, I think, from the looks of it. So you should be all fired up and ready to tell us all about the best practices, tips, and tricks with Logic Apps. I've been working sort of relatively closely to Sandro recently, so I know just how much of an expert he is in these areas, and I'm sure there'll be some little nuggets of usefulness in here for everybody. So just before we pass over to Sandro, a couple of little bits of admin we'd like to get out of the way. So if you're new to Integration Monday, we're 7:30 p.m. UK time most Monday nights. We've got people like Sandro who are Microsoft MVPs. We get product team members, community members come and talk to us about a whole range of different topics. The next event next week is an event about Kubernetes. So we're joined by Rob, who spoke a few weeks back, or maybe a couple of months ago even now, who was talking about Kubernetes, and he's going to tell us a bit more about stateful workflows. Which is like an extension to the topic he did last time. Now, we've actually, I haven't got these in the slides yet, but we've also got another session just to call out here where Steve Jan's going to join us at the end of the month to talk about serverless functions. And actually just remembering that the session for Rob, actually, that's not next week, that's 2 weeks' time. So next week we've got the Integrate Summit, which we'll mention in a moment. So we've got a break next week, and we'll be kicking off the week after that.
Well, 2 weeks after that. We have
2 weeks?
Of course, in between, when then we don't have a session, but then the 15th we have we continue.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can sort something out for the week after Integrate then. So Integrate 2020 on the 1st to the 3rd. So we've got discounted tickets here. There's loads of people. I think Lexi was saying there's like 500 plus people signed up for that. So that should be really cool. The agenda's all out and everything. So, and feel free to reach out if people have got questions about anything to do with the event. Lastly, just a quick shout out for the sponsors. So Serverless 360 and BizTalk 360, and just provide the platform for us to host the user group on. So just ask that we check out their stuff. Otherwise, at this point, Sandro, I'll pass over to you. The usual rules apply. So Sandro will do his presentation. If anyone has any questions or comments, just chuck them in the Q&A window, and I'll keep an eye on those. And then at the end, I'll go through and ask the questions on the audience behalf, and we can give Sandro a good grilling about Logic Apps. So I'll just pass over to you now, mate.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, do you see my screen?
Yeah, we have your screen.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, hi guys. First of all, I hope all of you are okay with this COVID situation around the world, and you guys and your family stay safe. And it's a pleasure to be here again on this user group. My name is Sandro Pereira. I work in the integration space for 13 years, I guess. I stopped counting. And I'm Azure MVP since 2011. Probably you know all my blogs. You have my contacts there. Feel free to reach me out if you have any questions about any topic about integration, Microsoft integration at least. And I will try to reply as soon as I can. Okay. So a little warning. This house is full of kids. So if you start seeing some screams, they will be entering the room. Okay. This will be my first session about this topic, tips and tricks about Logic Apps. I start for this session the basic ones and some a little more advanced, I guess, I don't know. But the goal is to continue to have tips and tricks, and maybe in the future I'm joining again with this topic with another set of tricks about Logic App. And this session I base my session on this Netflix TV show called Diagnosis. This lady was Lisa Sanders was the doctor behind Dr. House. She was the doctor that gave technical advice about the stories and so on and so forth. So she's basically the real Dr. House, and I was a fan of Dr. House. And she takes some cases and she tried to use in the community also to find the diagnosis for the disease that people are suffering. And so I base this story on Logic App. I know they are very easy, fast developer. They were fine at the beginning, but you need to do some diagnosis of are they built in the correct
Sandro, it's just
way,
Mike
are
jumping
they
in.
working fine, and so on and so forth. So basically,
Sandro, it's just Mike jumping in. Can you hear me okay?
yeah.
Your audio's just gone a little bit funny there. Do you want to
Yes.
just say a couple of things? I mean, check. Can you just say a couple of things?
Yes, Michael. Yeah, I'm speaking.
Yeah.
Lex, can you hear the same problem I'm hearing, Lex?
Yeah, I have the same issue. Yeah, his audio is just breaking. I don't know what's different. Yeah, compared to previous sessions with Sandro, it's never has really been.
It's breaking. Let me check.
Have you moved to a different room or something? So you have
Let me try to
connectivity or something.
And now?
At the moment, it's
just
fine.
say something
Can
again.
you hear me now?
It's just
Can you hear?
a little bit echoey, but it's otherwise better.
Yeah. The best I can for now. Can you hear now better?
That's better.
Let's just give it a go.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see how it develops.
Okay, so I based my presentation on this TV show. So the first tip, it's about Logic App naming convention. Okay. If you use descriptive names, it will improve the readability of that what that kind of Logic Apps or that kind of flow are doing without entering on the Logic App. So you can easily, by reading the name, may know what you are addressing on that they also transfer, okay, and
I think you're starting to act up again, Sandro.
It's a bit weird, but at the moment you cannot easily rename Logic Apps, or directly you can't do it. Okay. Hello?
Hey, Sandro, can you hear us okay?
Michael.
Yeah, can you hear us, Sandro?
Yes. Yes.
I think you're back. Your audio went a little bit funny again.
Let me try one thing. Give me just 1 minute. Hello?
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
got you, mate.
Let me try to use a different network. Just give me 1 second. Hello?
Yeah, we've got you, mate.
And the audio, good?
You're connected via your phone now.
Yes, the audio is
Okay.
good?
At the moment,
I
it's
think
fine.
it's all right, yeah.
Okay.
It's a good suggestion there from one of the guys has seen him got the kids playing on the internet.
Like taking over the bandwidth with you.
Yeah, actually they are, but this is the only way that can
Yeah.
they stop a little. Sorry about this problem, guys. So as I was telling about naming convention, this is just a few samples that I have in my demo subscription. And if I have to do a diagnosis on that, I may say that they all need, with the exception of these POC send HTML email, they need a little improvement, okay? If I accessing last element, what this logic app is doing, I don't know. Last element of what? Arrays POC, okay, I may say that I'm working with arrays there and so on and so forth. But again, I like to nowadays use a different naming convention and specify like project name, a short description on what is kind of logic app is doing, and sometimes do the prefix prod or dev or Q&A your naming convention that can be readable and easy distinguish what these kind of logic apps are doing. Okay, so in the first one, I will probably call POC accessing last element of an XML array. So this is kind of a small project and proof of concepts that I'm doing, but at least nowadays I can read better and go directly to that kind of logic app and find stuff that I'm doing, because sometimes can be a nightmare. Okay. And I told that on the portal there is no direct way to change the name of that logic app. In comparison, for example, with the Microsoft Flow or Power Automate these days, you can change the name of the flow on the Power Automate portal, but on the Azure you cannot change that name. So the only option that you have is just clone that logic app, give a proper name, and then delete the other one. The problem with that is that you lose the history of the previous logic app, but it's the only option you have at the moment. Okay. So continuing the same topic about naming and naming conventions, you should name properly your actions inside your logic app. You know, all the triggers, actions, conditions, you should have a decent name. Again, it's like if you are a C# developer and if you create a class calling class 1, variable 2, if you work with me, I will fire you in a second. No, you never do that. Just no one does that. So why you do send 1, send 2, if 1, if 2 on the Logic App side? You should use descriptive names. Again, improve readability, transfers knowledge between members of the team. The only limitation that we have at the moment is that on the portal, in an easy way, you cannot rename actions that have dependencies. So if you look to this sample, you have initialize variable, condition, set variable, send message, if false, if true, for each. These are default names that when you drag, or not drag, but when you choose the action or the condition inside the flow, the designer, they will put this default name. Okay. So again, by reading that, I don't know what they are doing. I have to enter in each action, in each shape, and check what they are doing inside, what configuration they have. Okay. So a suggestion, the same, is like initialize and put the name of the variable. On the condition, give a proper name. Check if receive an array or an object of a general notification. That's kind of a message that I'm receiving on the HTTP request trigger. On the conditions for each general notification, no? So I'm inside array, I'm doing a for each of each element of that array. If I'm going to the false condition, it's a simple one. I'm just removing the for each, but again, I'm putting in all the shapes, convert step to a code description, set description name, and so on and so forth. By doing that, at least you have an overview what kind of this flow is doing without entering on each shape. You see some exclamation there because, for example, the trigger that when a HTTP request is received, I cannot change that. So it's the first one, the trigger, you cannot change the name. I think this is a little bit resolving, but at the moment we can't. If true, if false, it's by default. You cannot change that name also. I would like to change that in the future, but for now, it's a limitation on the design. Limitation or feature, call it whatever you want. For me, it's a limitation. And I told you that you cannot rename an action that has a dependency. Can that be possible to do? And the answer is yes. So if you go, for example, I have this sample, and this parse JSON action is getting or is being used on the add rows to a data set. Because it's being used by the add row to a data set, if you try to go to the menu of options that you have, rename is disabled. Okay, so you cannot on the design change that name. But luckily for us, you can switch to code view. And the funny part is that on the design is called, the action calls parse, blank, a space, and JSON. On the design, on the code view is parse underscore JSON. So each space is replaced by an underscore. So you can easily change that name by find and replace.
So as you see, I'm finding parse_JSON and replace with parse_JSON_renamed, and the result will be something like that. So it's a trick that you can use to rename actions that has dependencies. Okay. The fourth suggestion is, whenever you can, please put some comments on the actions. Okay. All of you will win something by doing that, because everyone can read comments. It's like a documentation for you and for your team. You will avoid future frustrations, because if you do a logic app now, 3 months later, you don't know what you've done on that logic app. So you need to read everything again, try to find why you did that stuff or what is doing. So put some comments on the actions. It will improve readability. It will improve transfer knowledge between the teams, and it will help you documenting the logic app itself. So I told that the trigger, when a HTTP request is received, you cannot change that name. And this is why, for example, on that shape is really important to have a comment. You can add a comment there and say, for example, I'm receiving a JSON with evaluation forms of OCR metadata from smart document. So I know who is triggering that, or who is supposed to trigger that logic app variable. Put the comment why you are using this variable, and for what reason. For example, here I'm using for creating a custom HTML email body, and because the action send email action version 2 does support very well this kind of custom HTML body. If you use a variable, you can do this kind of fancy emails. Okay. For example, on the conditions, you see the string starts with what kind of...
Sandro, your audio's just got a bit funny again. You still there, mate?
So the only option...
Sandro, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but your audio's gone weird again.
Yeah, I'm seeing here.
I think we missed about 30 seconds there. I don't know if you're back and can just backtrack a little bit.
Sandro? Yeah, well, we can't hear you at the moment. Sandro, are you back?
Lex, let's just give Sandro a minute.
Yeah,
Guessing he might be reconnecting. It looks like he was.
Hello?
Hey, Sandro.
Sorry.
That's okay, mate. I think missed about 30 seconds before you.
Yeah. So as you see on the string condition, you don't know what is inside. No, you have to go and click on that. It will open a small, very small expression shape, and you need to scroll and try to see what kind of condition are you there. So as a suggestion, if you copy that condition and put on the comments, now you can read it properly without going and entering every single time that you need to check that. So is a good suggestion to put on the comments of that condition, if condition action. Okay. And again, for example, scopes. Why are you using this section or this scope? Put a comment and on this kind of bulk of action, I'm doing this kind of operations. At least you know that you can collapse that kind of scope because you know what you are doing inside of that group of actions. And by speaking on scopes, what are scopes? Okay. What we can do using scopes and what they can offer us. So, as a simple way, a scope is a region. As a C#, you can collapse, put some code inside, and it can collapse. Okay, expand and collapse just to read better other code. And as you know, also a logic app can grow in size, so you can use this kind of action or shape to minimize your branch of your conditions, for example. So you can put several actions, several shapes inside of a scope, and again, it serves as a region. You can collapse, as simple as that. Okay, but it is more, and the scope can be a try-catch or a try-catch finally also. As a C# also you can do, as you see in this sample of a C#, you can do the same by using scopes. So you create one scope that is a try, and again, afterwards you put two different scopes and you create the catch and the finally. And as if you see on the picture, you see that the row between the try scope and the catch is different than the above ones. Okay. And how can I handle and configure these kind of configurations about controlling error handling? So you have this try catch as you see before. So we have to put different scopes, and on the second scope you go to the properties and you choose it should run if the previous one fails or, for example, gives timeout. You choose what kind of actions you will execute. This catch scope will be triggered and run. So in this case, I'm saying if the try fails or has some kind of timeout, I will enter on the catch scope. On the final, for example, it's a different scope below the catch, and if I go, I will say that for any kind of situation, if it's the catch is successful, has failed, is skipped, or has timeout, I will run. That's the goal of the finally scope. So using this approach, you can build a try-catch finally functionality inside Logic App. and this will be the end picture. But if you compare again with C# code, you don't need a try catch to get exceptions or raise exceptions, control exceptions. If you don't put nothing, if a line breaks, you will get the exception. It fails, it stops, but you get the exception. And here you have the same functionality. You know, every single shape action that you put inside the Logic App designer, it is by default configured if the previous one runs successful. That means that if for example, for any reason, in this case the is variable fails, the flow will stop there, because the next action, that in this case was a response, is set up to run only if the previous one is successful. Okay, and even inside of the try scope, you have this kind of functionalities also on each shape. So I can say, for example, I don't care if the second action that I have inside in that scope fails, I will execute the next one, for example. So you can do this kind of, it should be like a try catch inside a try catch, something like that. Okay, but you can use this kind of properties inside the shapes to control the errors that happens inside your flow, in your workflow, in your Logic App. And again, if you want to do this kind of real try catch operations, you use scopes. So the seventh one is you should learn from failures. Execute the Logic App, check the result, and learn for that outcoming. For example, as a C# guys, we normally try to implement defensive code. You know, for example, try to connect to the SQL server. We can use like using operation and while read exists whatever to control that we only go read from the query, the select, if as results. If it brings results, I go there and read that result. If it failed the connection, I'm controlling that way. No, I'm not trying to read a value from the select if it's empty. Okay, otherwise I'll probably break and give an exception. So why don't you do the same on your Logic App? Why you are not defensive? For example, I see a lot of samples that I'm going to read something from the database, and on the next action I'm trying to use the outcoming of that result from the database. And in one case, I was analyzing and checked why it was failing. And I asked one of my team members, and they told me, oh, it's normal. Sometimes we don't have results. And he's trying to get that data and it doesn't exist. For me, this is a problem. No, failing, it's a problem. As this all here in the integration space, I cannot see failing. Okay, if I have this in the historic state, this Logic App fails is the same of having this orchestration fail. No, I have to go there and see why it's failing. If it's normal, that should not be a failure. This needs to be controlled. So you should, for example, go check, get the data from the database, and then check, do you have a result on that result set? Okay, if it's null, okay, just terminate the logic app. It's an execution, logic app execution with success, but it didn't went through all the steps because you don't have data. That's how it should be implemented, not failing and throw an exception that I need to go there and check why it's failing. Okay, so you need to learn from that mistakes and try to use also some kind of defensive approach to control your process. If it's an error, that should be raised, that should be logged on the history as a failure. Otherwise, if it's normal, it should be a success execution. And I spoke about some slides ago about expressions and the nightmare of building expressions inside Logic App. So on the action side, on the shape side of your flow, when you set a value or you try to set a value, you can use amazing expressions that has by default on the Logic App engine. Concatenate, length. So there are several actions that you can use by default. The problem is that on the design mode, you see this kind of body and 3 dots. You don't know what is inside. If you click on that text, it opens the expression, but it's so small and you cannot kind of resize very well that you need to copy that to Notepad and do it in an appropriate way using Notepad++, Notepad, whatever you want, except this kind of windows. Okay, because it can be big. Okay, you have some three examples there. The first one is the one that is on the picture. It has the body, the action that I'm getting the body. I'm going to the result set table. I'm going to the first element of the table, and I'm getting the error description. Okay, the ones I'm doing math operations, so it can become bigger. Okay, and this is sometimes not easy to build that expression inside this editor. So I talk about this. This weird name is the name of the action that I'm getting the body, and be aware that you need to replace underscore by spaces. Okay. And for example, this kind of operation, I'm doing an average of the 4 values. Okay. But for example, the add operation only accepts 2 values. So you have to kind of concatenate add 2 values inside the add two values. So it's kind of weird and annoying to do, but it's some kind of limitation that we have at the moment. And sometimes I use, for example, Notepad++ to do this kind of indentation, and then putting everything in one line, copy to the editor, and it will be better, have a better experience, and avoid a lot of errors. Okay. So controlling connectors. This is, for me, one of the most annoying problems that I have in Logic Apps. It's knowing who is using the connectors and what Logic App are using the existing connections that I have, or APIs connections. Do I have duplicate connections? Do you have unuseful connection that is there by garbage? So there is no easy way to do that. If you go to the Logic app, you know on the portal which API connections or connectors are you using, okay? But that means that you need to go one by one and check what connectors are you using. If you go to the API connections page on the portal, you see a list of all of them with strange names, in fact. So Azure File, Dropbox One, Power BI 1, SQL 2, SQL 3. It's the names that they give by default, and by using the portal, you cannot change that. But if you try to see, okay, I'm going to this API connection. Who is using this API connection? There is nothing, okay? You don't know, for example, that 3 Logic Apps is using this same API connection. And for maintenance, this is a nightmare. For example, one thing that I do in the recent project is using tags, and I'm saying that, for example, I put on that API connection that is being used by Logic App, blah blah blah. Okay, and by the way, this is production, just in case that you have like a full overview of where is being used and by whom. Of course, if I have a second Logic App using this same API connection, that is possible. Sometimes not really the best option, but it's possible. I may create like a new tag saying Logic App 2 and put the name of that Logic App. Again, it's not the perfect. It's not the perfect scenario, the right solution, but it's better than nothing, at least. This is one issue also is finding orphans API connection that were create or miscreate, and they stay there by, you don't actually, as a developer, you don't really want to know that. You don't care about that, but who is controlling your subscription may want to know and may have the subscription cleaner. So for example, if you are creating a Logic app and you are trying to connect to a SQL server, if you miss, for example, the password, it says you cannot connect, but behind it create SQL API connection on this list, and you again go and try to fix and put a different password, fail again, it will create a SQL 1. And on the third option, the tentative, you actually configure properly the connection string and you are able to connect to the SQL database. It will create a SQL 3 API connection. So SQL, or SQL 2 in this case, because the first one is SQL 1, and then SQL 2. SQL 1 is orphaned, no one is using. They are not even properly created or configured, no? So how do you find this kind of stuff? Luckily, Michael created an awesome PowerShell script that does that for you. At least you have like a list of orphan API connectors that you can go there and delete from that subscriptions or resource group. Okay, you have the link there. Go there and try it. And the last one is fixing connections or API connections. Again, Logic App also performs several design checks and highlights some errors. And one of that, from time to time, I'm going to the subscription and I see that there is a connection that has a problem. I don't know, credential expired, or you need to regenerate the credentials to connect to a certain system. In this case is Power BI. And one thing that is annoying me constantly is that I get this strange window saying inbound connection, just inbound connection, but there is no button to say fix connection. Okay, you are add new or cancel, but no fix connection. And in fact, you need to click on that exclamation to fix the connection. Okay, just click there, and it will allow you to fix that that connection. Otherwise, it will create Power BI 2, and I don't want to. I want to fix my connection and not create new connections and leave garbage on my subscription. And that's it. That's all the tips that I have for at the moment.
Thanks, Sandro. Yeah, just mic dropping in. So we've got a whole bunch of questions coming. I think a couple of people are asking about the PowerShell script that you shared. I'll just share my screen and I'll show people where it is.
You are the best one to speak about that.
Well, I was thinking about maybe doing a session about it if people are interested. Give me a minute. So let me see if we can share the link. Where has it gone? Deployment. Not deployment, it's admin, sorry. Find orphan connectors. Right, so I'll pop this in the chat window. So if anybody wants it, there you go. So just to show people that, so touching on some of the stuff Sandro's talked about, there's a whole bunch of bits and bobs in here. So like one of the other scripts that people might find useful if you're using SAP, if you've got like say 10 connectors that talk to SAP, this one checks, lets you see which like SAP environments they're pointing to. There's one that checks which gateways a Logic Apps point if using the on-prem data gateway and stuff. And there's a whole bunch of new stuff I've put in around test and governance. So you can do a whole bunch of tests with PowerShell and Pesta about your Logic App environment. So there's a bunch of stuff people might find interesting down here. But more importantly, Sandro, jumping on to your questions. So let me just go back to the start of them. Right. So I think we had. Right. So would you recommend an instance number in the Logic App name if there's so I guess this is where you've got like one interface that's spread over 2 or 3 Logic Apps that kind of work together. So I guess the questions from Nuno about would you maybe have a number in them to indicate that they're the same interface, but they're number 1, 2, and 3 that work together.
Again, you put everything in the tags that help you have an understanding about what is who is using and how it's being used. So number of again, that was just a suggestion. It's not again, it's not the best scenario, but why not? If it helps you, I think you can put it. I put much information I can put there to help me on the future to analyze this kind of stuff, this kind of operation, because I'm most of the time I am the developer, but they annoy me with the support, and I want to avoid that as a developer. Also, I want to avoid teams to call me and constantly reach to me just because they doesn't understand why or who is being used or what kind of configuration do you have. So there is no perfect scenario at the moment.
I think we tend to kind of, if you've got a couple of them together, we tend to have like a name for the logic app that's the same for like, say, the three of them might have the name would be the same for three of them, but then with just an extension verb on the end saying what they're doing, wouldn't they? So like,
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
We sometimes like have, like, if you've got a service bus listener, you might have, you know, my logic app dash service bus listener, my logic app dash logic,
Yeah.
something like that.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes it's using like a child logic app to do this connection, and every time that I need to use this connection, just call a child logic app. All depends on the scenarios, no?
Yeah, cool. So we've got Mort, who's had more of a comment. He was saying that he'd found that the rename works a bit better in the designer than it was. And he just discovered this last week, so it might be something to check out there just to see if that's got better than it was.
Yeah, probably. They are continuously updating, and I hope they will allow this kind of functionality.
Yeah, we've got a comment from Offer, who asks about the user groups URL. So dead easy, integrationusergroup.com, and all of our stuff's on that website. So Shivendra asks advice on using Key Vault in Logic Apps for connection details and third-party FTP details and stuff like that.
Yeah, that will be a bunch of new tips, and I will address key vaults. But in fact, every kind of connection that you should use, you put on key vault, I guess. No.
So what's your thoughts, Sandro, about? I've been thinking about doing an article for a while about. With Key Vault, you've got two choices, haven't you? You can either grab it from Key Vault in the ARM deployment, or you can grab it from Key Vault at runtime. Now, you get forced down a certain route with the connectors that you have to deploy them with the settings at deployment time. But if you're doing like HTTP, you can grab it just before you do the call. And I think there's like pros and cons. So obviously, if you've got the call to Key Vault, you've got latency to do that. But then it means you can also change the keys without having to redeploy the logic app. Do you have a preference on that particular decision?
Well, it depends a little on the project and on the scenario. So if you check on this group of slides, I don't address deployment because that's a complete different story. I focus on the portal itself by doing inside developing your logic app inside the Azure portal, because this I guess is the starting point, and I think most of the people will use it instead of Visual Studio and content deployment and so on and so forth. If you use, as we used before, deployment and deploy to several environments, I will go for this kind of configuration that before you deploy, you grab the stuff and deploy it probably. Okay.
Cool. I mean, I guess Shivendra, if that's a topic of particular interest, or anybody else wants topics like that, if you let us know, there's a few people we can get to talk about that kind of thing.
Yeah, because that topic goes to an entire session, I guess.
So we've got a bit of feedback from Offer, who says this guy's good, I'm learning. So doing a good job, Sandro.
Thank you.
So we've got Samia, who asks, we have a logic app which uses a webhook, and we're able to return the callback results to the caller. However, the webhook may sometimes fail with a validation error. Is there any way to capture this response? Currently, we work around the issue by making a normal call after the logic app fails, which is not a webhook call. However, this approach, we end up calling the logic app twice. Is there any other advice on other options?
I don't know if I understand the question, but there was a result with a failure, or
I think I'm wondering if it's just so it looks like they've got logic app calls does an HTTP with a webhook where they're getting an error back, but then they call. I'm guessing it's like they call it again without a webhook, so they can no call afterwards. There's not a webhook. Cover this approach.
can I use retry options and?
Well, yeah, that's what I was wondering, whether you can just have like an if depending on the result response code or something.
Even you can do like a retry operations depending on the status, I guess. No. On the HTTP status.
I think we need a little bit more info on that one, Samir, if you can.
So yeah, you can do it in different ways depending on the scenario.
So we've got. Apologies if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, by the way, but I think it's pronounced Moltz. So he asks, what's the core tag on the shapes in the designer? So I think they were. So on the designer, it has the word core on the shape names. I think that's probably because you're using ICE connectors there, Sandro, was it?
Yeah. That was from ICE connector, so core, it's on ICE.
Yeah, so if anybody hasn't worked with integration service environment before, some of the connectors that run they're actually installed on the ICE environment. So an example with the HTTP one that Sandro had was on the ICE environment, your HTTP calls can go through the ICE network into your like on-premise stuff and things in your virtual network, and the connectors are actually installed on the ICE environment rather than actually being sort of the consumption model ones, and it's just a very specific difference that comes when you're using ICE. You can use both kinds of the connectors, I think, but the ones that are core basically mean that on the ICE nodes.
They run on the ICE, even the try, the scopes, the path JSONs, they are part of the core of the ICE, so they run on the ICE environment.
I've never really thought about this, Sandra, actually, but I guess if you've got non-ICE, if you use a non-ICE connector, if you're running on ICE, you probably pay an action cost. Yeah.
You can do that, but you are paying in that case.
So we've got a question from Michael, who asks, what is too big for a logic app? What's your thoughts on best practices to know when to split maybe a big logic app into smaller ones?
Well, what is too big? Not an easy question. So, I didn't see, luckily at the moment, I didn't see the big logic app. But if I go to my past a lot BizTalk, I saw 4 pages and multiple pages side by side, but with 4 lines.
Yeah.
Just to print one logic app.
How many shapes do you reckon is the biggest logic app you've seen, Sandro?
Oh, I guess more than 200.
Yeah, that's bigger than mine then. I'll tell you what, I was having a chat with some guys the other week. I think one of the biggest problems about the size problem with logic apps is it's not so much the how big's big, it's more if I want to break it up, it's quite difficult to refactor the logic app is one of the problems I find. So you can't, like, if you start moving shapes around, it's because the shapes are quite coupled together and depend on each other.
Exactly.
It makes that difficult.
I like to develop flows that simple and stupid. If they are simple and stupid, you will not have problems. If you try to put a lot of complexity, that sometimes we need to, but try to simplify as max as you can. And in some cases that involves splitting also, because for example, you cannot put if conditions inside if conditions forever. No, you have a limitation there. So if you kind of do this kind of validations, if one step, then if one another, and blah, 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 in some cases you need to call a different logic app, for example, to do more conditions inside. So there are some limitations inside the design that you cannot do whatever you want. Luckily, I think is a good approach. Limit these kind of operations and inside operations. Otherwise, people will do too much.
I suppose one of the good things is you can always, if you want to measure these things, you can always look at a Logic Apps run history and work out how many billable actions you had.
Yeah.
You can almost like track that and use it as a way to. Actually, guys, I don't know if you can hear this. I'll apologise, but in the background, I think a giant bird's just landed on my garden office. And if anyone can hear the noise of what sounds like an eagle, it's actually just a pigeon on the roof. You know, it's the modern working from home challenges.
And it gets difficult to read and maintain this kind of logic apps now, because if it starts to be bigger, then you need to have a big resolution screen, or you need to go scrolls and collapse, and it's a nightmare.
So we've got a bit of feedback from John O'Keefe, who asks, it'd be great to have a session around PowerShell, Logic Apps, DevOps, CI/CD, etc., etc. So I think that sounds like 2 or 3 sessions in there, John. We'll see if we can sort some stuff out on that. And if you keep an eye out for that in coming months, if you do have specifics that you're interested in, feel free to drop us an email or send us a message on Twitter or something if you want. Right, we've got Nuno who asks, any recommendations on how to avoid 429 with connectors, excluding going for ICE?
429.
I think that's HTTP 429. I'm guessing that's like a throttling code.
Throttling. So, well, I've do not share the API connection. That's one recommendation. So if you have different logic apps using the same connector, you will get some threshold about callings. So create 2 connections. If you have only one logic app and you have this problem, you may need to slow down and, I don't know, maybe put the message inside the service bus and grab it slowly or more slow to avoid this kind of issues or thresholds reaching.
So I think as well as that, Sandra, I think you can do like a round robin pattern if you've got like 3 or 4 connectors.
Yeah.
So you could like just do some kind of round robin across those connectors if you needed to.
Yeah. So like creating like for Logic App child, and on the design choose randomly in between.
Do you know if the HTTP connector has similar issues? Because I think that's more about the API connector, isn't it? And I'm guessing you've always got the choice to drop out to a function if you need something a bit meatier.
It depends. It's per connection. It depends on the API. It has thresholds. The only one that I reached at the moment was Teams notifications. So.
I guess it's also probably interesting to see about the build announcements. So for anyone who missed it, there was quite a few significant Logic App announcements at Build, and one of them was stateless workflows for low latency.
Yep.
And the ability to run on a function app, and I think that would probably take away some of those throttling issues as well, I would guess.
They still are working on that. They still have limitations.
So we've got a question: is there a way to secure Office 365 connections? If we create a connection, can anyone reuse it? How can we avoid that?
Well, need to be careful about that. So creating a connection and everyone reuse it, you can get to limits of calls. So be aware of that. But I normally create like a service account, and to do this kind of Office 365, like Teams and other stuff like that, I'm not using any user accounts. If I create, who has access to that resource group can use that connector without knowing the password.
I think just while I talk on there, Sandra, I've just chucked one up on the screen. So there's another one of them PowerShell scripts. I've got this one tests which, if you've got a connector, it's quite an easy little PowerShell test here, but it tests who the authenticated user is for a connector, so you can like check that nobody's using a personal account or anything like that. And I think in addition to the throttling thing, it's also elevation of privilege, isn't it? So if Sandro created a connector as his service account, I deploy a Logic app, pinch his connector, then I can potentially do more things than what I might be intended to do. So I think Sandro's comment about resource group sort of separation is a really easy way to say, because you can't use a connector in a different resource group. So that would be a way of easily limiting, so that you couldn't use it.
Unfortunately, there are people using personal credentials on Logic App side. And just be aware that if you put that, if you authenticate with your account and you give me access to the resource group, I can use your account. Okay. Yep. So be aware.
Yep. So that's kind of why I did this script, actually, was to catch if any of our connectors are using anything other than a service account.
Yeah.
Then you're kind of nipping that in the bud really quickly. So actually, I hadn't realised how many questions we've got. We've got loads more. So let me see. So John asks, what about service bus naming schemes? Can you maybe elaborate on that, John? I think I'm not quite sure what you mean there. If you can pop another comment in just to let us know, we'll come back to that. So we've got Georgiou asks, what is the best practice around rules engine? Is there a better way than on-prem BRE or Liquid?
Well, in fact, I think there is no business rule engines at the moment in Logic App. I'm not aware of that.
Nah, it's still a big gap, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, so you need to be more.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, Georgiou, to hear what you're thinking around Liquid and how you might use that. I mean, I guess, Sandra, I don't know if you think any differently of this, but at the minute, to me, most of the things, if you've got a serious business rules requirement, it's either call out to some .NET code and use like an open source rule engine and a function, or third-party one which has an API. And I think that
yeah. Functions, database, APIs, but yeah, you need to build your kind of business rule.
So I think Barani's saying they're using the ARM template to name the API connections, which makes it easier to maintain. So I think that's kind of
exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of what we're doing anyway, isn't it? People create them in the portal in development, but we rename them in the ARM templates, redeploy, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I didn't address that because, again, that's a different story. At the moment was the basic stuff about on the portal and this kind of limitations, because if you go to advanced, you lose that kind of the basics, no? So if you're using the port, that is a big gap. And again, you can, there is no perfect solution. You can use ARM template to change that names, but again, you will face the same problems with who is using, is being used or not. But at least they have a proper name.
So we've got Shivendra asks about any document on the details of Key Vault in the Logic app. So I think the thing we were talking about before, Shivendra, I don't think anyone's necessarily written that up yet. It was just some thinking that we had. There is stuff in an ARM template where you can reference a Key Vault key when you're deploying it. And you can pull them into DevOps in various ways. That's how most people would do it. And feel free to reach out to us via Twitter or email if you want, and we'll see if you can't find anything. But there is stuff about how to link to a Key Vault there. But I think that the more general architecture discussion about when to use one or the other, we'll see if we can put something in the integration playbook, which is on the screen about that.
Yeah, that's a story for deployment and stuff.
So we've got Rajiv, who asks, any thoughts on the automation of OAuth authentication for API connectors like Salesforce? I guess this includes things like Office 365 and stuff when you're doing a DevOps pipeline.
Yeah, yeah, completely different. You can we can go on and on about deployment. This is I'm not addressing that at the moment.
I'll just put a comment in there, Sandro, because I know that one was talked about recently. So I think everybody knows that that's one of the most painful parts. I guess the couple of things I would say is people have spoken to the product team about it a number of times. They haven't addressed it yet, but they have acknowledged that it's one of their biggest issues. There isn't really anything we can do about it, but there's a couple of things. So number one, on that playbook that I'm just showing you, this article here talks about how you can test the status of the connector. So we've been using this to check if any connectors become in an errored state, which would be a way of catching if the authorization's been lost in some way. So you've rebuilt the connector or something like that. I don't think there's a solution yet for actually being able to authorize in the DevOps pipeline though. But the product team, if you're going to integrate in a couple of weeks or next week, the product team will be there, so that you can throw that question their way and see if they've actually got a solution for that yet. So we've got Rich, who's got actually, it's a really good question. Is there any way to disable a single action in a Logic app? He couldn't find one.
No.
I'm sure that there is, Sandro, is there?
No. Disable one?
Yeah, so like disabling. I think the problem with some of the actions around this is that if you go to disable one, obviously it's a bit like the rename challenge, isn't it? Where you might have other ones that depend on it. So if you disable it, what happens further down?
The only way to disable is remove it.
Or put an if with a false in all the time.
Yeah, but you have a problem on that. If they are dependencies, no. But no, there is no easy way, because most of the time, because of the dependencies, there are no easy way to
I suppose if you wanted, here's a thought for you, Sandra. I've never really mulled this over much before, but you could maybe use static response option on an action as kind of like a disable. So you could turn on static response and give it back the response that you want, so it doesn't actually call out externally or something, and that it effectively skips it over.
Well, that's an approach. Still in preview, but and I don't. Depending on the actions, you can do that. Other action doesn't allow you to do that.
So Nuno's next question. Nuno's giving us a thumbs up for more sessions around DevOps and PowerShell and stuff. Joe Gill, he suggests some of the concurrency control options might be useful for dealing with the throttling challenges. So that's a good shout, that if you've got like a loop or something. So Nuno says, regarding the round robin pattern, tried to find an example a while ago. Do you remember Kevin Lamb replying that on Azure feedback? Cannot find again. Do you know an implementation? So off the top of my head, I don't know if I've actually seen anything online about that, Nuno. I don't know if you have, Sandro.
No.
I mean, I think off the top of my head, I think one of the guys we work with might have done this actually, but I'll see if we can check. I would guess you could just do an integer, have 5 connectors, do a random number between them, and then do like a branch or something, and just call the different connectors. Would probably be the easiest way, wouldn't it?
I guess this was what I told. I think that will be like a random operation and choose one child logic app, and this child logic app do the same operation using different connectors. Or you have a logic app, a child logic app that receives that message, and you have like an operation just to do with different branch, just to call different connections, API connectors, but with the same call, just to avoid this kind of limitation.
John's come back to us on the service bus question from earlier. Just, do we have any thoughts around naming conventions for queues and topics?
Oh, I have kind of. I have the service bus name that should be something clear also, and then it's on the queue. I'll try to give a decent and readable name, like receiving XML from Beanstalk. I don't know. I'm trying to find a scenario, but I know that normally I tend to give some on the queues, on the topics, a name that allows me to understand who is sending or why it's being used. As always in my naming on all resource, I'm trying to have this kind of approach. Okay, something that should be clear for you when you read, have a quick understanding of what is being done there.
Yeah, I think I've got quite particular thoughts on actually that topic, Sandra. I don't know what you think about this. So I like to separate the sending of a message from the receiving. So quite often I like to have a topic that forwards to a queue, just so that later on it gives me the choice to, do pub stuff if I need to and things like that. So I tend to have a queue. The name
I would love to say he is talking, but I have my mother's birthday, so
all right. I'll tell you what. John, if you want, feel free to reach out to us on that, and we'll take that question offline and have a little bit of a chat about it. I'll rattle through really quickly. There's a few really good questions here, Sandra. Actually, do you want me to? Just trying to think if there's maybe people can ping you on Twitter and have a chat about a few of them if you've got to shoot off in a second.
Just if they can send me an email or Twitter, or just send me an email with that, and I will tweet about some kind of response if I want.
No problem. I'll just grab a copy of those questions anyway, Sandra, and we'll take those offline. I guess if we do it on Twitter, maybe I'll ping you the questions on Twitter, then if people can jump into the conversation if they want, if that's all right.
That would be awesome. Sorry, guys, but
yeah, no problem. It's nearly 9 o'clock anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we'll just wrap the session up there. So first off, thanks very much everybody for joining us tonight. Sandro, awesome again as usual, and lots of really good questions actually tonight as well. So it's obviously, it's one of those topics where there's lots of people interested in learning more and that kind of thing. So hopefully we'll catch a lot of people next week at the Integrate Summit. And otherwise, I think 15th currently is our next Integration Monday, but we'll see if we can try and do one on the 7th if we can. Would you guys, Lex, Sandro, do you guys add any last comments? Excuse me, before we wrap up?
No, sorry about this, and I may do another session, come with new topics, and we'll discuss better with more free time.
Yeah, awesome. No, that's no bother, mate. Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and I hope you have a good day. Did you say it was your mother's birthday?
Yeah.
I wish a happy birthday from all of us, mate.
Yeah, wishes.
Thank you. Bye.
No problem. I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Okay, thanks everybody for joining tonight.
Bye.
And I've grabbed the questions, so I'll put them on Twitter, and I'll pop them on in a minute. Well, and hope everyone stays safe, has a great week, and we'll catch you at Integrate next week.
Covey.co